will speak from the practitioner point of view. I work as Executive Secretary for Human Rights in the Conference of European Churches in Brussels. And when I was thinking about this subject, religion, peace and sustainable communities, I was thinking on dialogue on religious freedom and peace as preconditions for sustainable communities from the point of view of international organizations. Because in my daily work I get in touch with international organizations like Council of Europe, OSCE, European Union and United Nations on European matters to basically advocate for rights of usually minority churches who do face with violation in their daily life. When I think about religion, I had on my mind one of the reflections that I pick up from internet, which says religion is an organized collection of beliefs, cultural systems, and worldviews that relate humanity in order for order of existence. When I was thinking about peace, I was thinking on the Gospel of St. Matthew, who says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." This is basically a daily commandment that for Christians is there for centuries and that we are all invited to fulfill in our daily call. When I was thinking about John Chrysostom, I was thinking on his homily on Ephesians, who says, "If there be peace, there will also be love. If love, there will be also peace." The Old Testament term shalom is an extremely rich term, and as such it's connected with saving and redeeming work of God. When I was thinking about the term of sustainable communities, this term is still under construction, and it was presented in some definitions as a notion of very well built and planned communities which promote sustainable living. This term is also known as recognized as a term of green cities and eco-communities, which in their focus we can find environmental and economic sustainability. We need to say that this term is still under construction, and that as such also it can point out on local control of the natural resources and involvement of people in their lives in their own communities from cultural and social sustainability point of view. I believe that through human rights we can connect all these values and all these issues. If human rights and freedom of religion or belief are provided and guaranteed by the state legal framework, and as such implemented, there is possibility that we have peace, which is the precondition to ensure the growth of sustainable communities in which there will be a rich participation of churches, religious communities, philosophical and non-confessional organizations. Let us see as well the international legal standards which serves to promotion of peace, as without peace and security, the main preconditions for religious freedom to develop and sustainable communities won't work. After the Second World War, several international organizations like UN, Council of Europe, OSCE and European Union were working to create a new world order, in sense that they ensure peace, democracy, human rights and rule of law on the European continent and wider. In this wider dialogue, in the OSCE context, we can see in the statement from Krakow from 1991 that the states expressed their deeply convictions that they share common values forged by history and based inter alia on respect of the individual, freedom of consciousness, religion or belief, freedom of expression, recognition of the importance of spiritual and cultural values, commitment to rule of law, tolerance and openness for dialogue and other cultures. Furthermore, in the OSCE context, the Ministerial Council emphasized the importance of a continued and strengthened interfaith and intercultural dialogue to promote great tolerance, respect and mutual understanding, and stressing the importance of fostering a climate of mutual tolerance and respect between believers of different communities as well as believers and non-believers, called on the participating states to promote and facilitate open and transparent interfaith and interreligious dialogue and partnerships. Under international human rights law, states are obliged not merely to respect freedom of religion or belief, but also actively to promote such freedom as between the parties. they should promote also atmosphere of tolerance and appreciation of religious diversity. So we could see that from the OSCE point of view, states took some time to reflect on all of these values that we are witnessing today also in this very room and at this conference, where we are invited all together to build peace and to promote religious tolerance and human rights. As from the Council of Europe point of view, I would like to say the Council of Europe has a very good initiative which is called Interreligious Dimension of Intercultural Dialogue, where they define dialogue between cultures as an oldest and most fundamental mode of democratic conversation. And we need to say that intercultural dialogue can be also a very valuable tool for the prevention and a resolution of conflicts by enhancing the respect for human rights, democracy and rule of law. But there are certain standards that the Council of Europe developed in this regard, and they emphasize that the communities need to share visions of the world to understand and learn from those that do not see the world with the same perspective we do, to identify similarities and differences between different cultural traditions and perceptions, to achieve a consensus that disputes should not be resolved by violence, to help manage cultural diversity in a democratic manner by making the necessary adjustments to all types of existing social and political arrangements, to bridge the divide between those who perceive diversity as a threat and those who view it as an enrichment, to share best practices, particularly in the area of intercultural dialogue, the democratic management of social diversity and promotion of social cohesion, to develop jointly new projects. I can say that just recently, from my experience, I've been participating in the roundtable that OSCE organized in Ukraine, where churches and religious communities gathered to enhance freedom of religion or belief for all, and to discuss what in this conflict situation, which is very particular, churches can do in order to stand for peace and to do something more on reconciliation. And then they came basically to the discussion, came to the focus that they could do, for example, something altogether on the rights of the prisoners, because winter is coming and the situation in prisons in Ukraine is a very difficult one. Then they also came to the project proposal that they could do something on homeless people, because the winter again is coming and people don't have food, they don't have basic facilities, they don't have shelter, where to go, and there they tried, even in this conflict situation like we find today in Ukraine, that churches and religious communities stand together and do something more on this one. From the UN point of view, I would say that UN General Assembly had rapidly encouraged activities aimed at promoting interreligious and intercultural dialogue in order to enhance peace, freedom of religion or belief, respect for diversity and mutual respect in order to enhance growth of sustainable communities, to create global, regional, national and local levels, an environment where peace and mutual understanding could develop. So we could also see that on the global level, peace it's also very much encouraged as one of the preconditions for sustainable communities to see its development in its fullness. Working in Brussels and also getting on the daily basis in touch with European Union, I would like to stress that in order also for the EU project, which is basically peace project, after many decades with the entering in force of the Lisbon Treaty, we got also Article 17 of Lisbon Treaty, which says that the Union respects and does not prejudice the status under national law of churches and religious associations or communities in the member states. The Union equally respects the status under national law, philosophical and non-confessional organizations. Recognizing their identity and their specific contribution, the Union shall maintain an open, transparent and regular dialogue with these churches and organizations. We could see that this dialogue is necessary and it's there, but where is the problem? The problem is that we still have violence, religious-based, like what it happened in France, what it was just mentioned by previous speaker. We had also attacks also in this year in Denmark, and then also the year before in Belgium. So religious-based violence we all need to combat in certain manner, and we could see that all international organizations, at least those that I listed, they have their task and they have developed their policy how to combat this sort of violation. But where is the challenge? Sometimes different religions and culture coexist with the same geographical area and have an impact on the way freedom of religion is conceived, creating tensions that need to be managed. What is necessary is creating stable, secure, tolerant and just societies where individuals and communities live together with dignity and respect. Negative stereotypes, which constitute roots causes of discrimination, hostility or violence and human rights abuses, continue to be widespread, and the growing segregation of communities hinders mutual respect and understanding. This leads to permanent intolerance and discrimination on the basis of religion or belief. In order to ensure peace where religion or belief can develop and give the best contribution to the development of sustainable communities, we need to have permanent dialogue on strengthening freedom of religion or belief. It is clear that even if we have political, legal and administrative mechanisms, alone they cannot do basically much, and they cannot eradicate negative stereotypes and trends and sustain culture of peaceful coexistence. As Conference of European Churches, we have developed certain program on human rights education, where we try to educate theologians on human rights issues, that they could also use human rights issues and education in their missionary work, that they could strengthen freedom of religion or belief, that they could strengthen rights of women and children, that they could strengthen the rights of religious minorities. And in the one training which we organized in the Western Balkans region, where there was a war for several years, where religions somehow, whether they want it or not, they were involved from a certain point of view. One of the imams in the conference stood and said, why didn't we have this discussion on religious freedom 20 years ago? Because perhaps that discussion on human rights and religious freedom could perhaps stop certain certain discussions could change the focus of what had happened in the Western Balkans regions, and perhaps prevent the wars which occurred in that area. So consultative processes as this one, it's very important because they foster meaningful interaction between people from different religions, beliefs and cultures, and we also are instrumental in contributing to the learning process that derives efforts towards enhanced social cohesion, peace and social stability, which are preconditions for the development of sustainable communities. This dialogue processing can promote mutual understanding, religious tolerance and respect in all matters relating to freedom of religion or belief by enhancing a wider knowledge of different religions and beliefs and of the history, traditions, languages and culture of the various religious minorities. Security of religion or belief communities can only be established on the basis of trust, and this requires mutual respect and understanding, both of which are guaranteed through safeguarding of freedom of religion or belief for all. So what is important for us in the Conference of European Churches is that we do advocacy work on freedom of religion or belief for all, not only for our members, but really we want to stand also for the freedom of religion or belief for all churches and religious communities, but also for philosophical and non-confessional organizations, because in this sense we can all move together towards peace in order to strengthen values such as democracy, human rights and rule of law. Thank you.